Hello, my people. It's day 18 of the Let's Talk About This series. Thank you for everyone that has joined me on all the episodes. I see your comments, I see your likes, I see your shares. I see the people that randomly just chip in conversation with me about the series, even though they are not commenting. Please comment, don't just watch. Today's episode, I want to talk about loss and grief, because it's a bit of a trying time here in Dubai, the Middle East, and lots of people are dealing with loss and grief in so many different ways. For some people, it's loss of properties, loss of livelihood, loss of businesses, while for some, there have been a few lives lost in the Middle East, in Oman, in Dubai, in Sharjah, in Iraq. And first, I just want to give a moment of silence for everyone that has lost a loved one this period, that has lost a business, that has lost something. For those that have lost businesses, I pray for wisdom, I pray for grace, I pray for multiplicity where the rest of the year is concerned. I pray for a recovery of everything that you have lost. We trust that the government of the UAE and their spirit of innovation, the audacity and the daring, and I know from a business perspective, they will come up with a lot of new things and things that will help even the businesses that have lost something. So we look forward to that part. But in thinking about loss, I think about my own personal loss. This year was 10 years since I lost one of the most important things in my life. That loss broke me, but it happened at a time in my life where I didn't have sufficient time to grieve. And, over the years, at different points in my life, I've just found myself just drifting back to that day. How I never shed a tear about it. I've never shed a tear about it. And as men, sometimes we can't just be so hard. We can just be so this. But at the time when it happened, that was the time for that. There was no space for me to grieve. There was no space for that loss. And the loss I'm talking about is the loss of my father. My father was one of the most important people in my life. He was a brilliant man, hardworking man. He was an eagle. He had multiple degrees. I have a first degree in economics for a lot of people that don't know, but this was motivated by my father. My father had a degree in quantity surveying, had a degree in building, but also got a first degree in economics and a master's in economics even at a much older age after I was born. And he did everything that he could to ensure that as kids, we had the best education. I remember one particular situation. I was in Unilag diploma and it was exam time, first semester exams. And all my colleagues had done exam 1, exam 2, exam 3, exam 4. But I couldn't do those exams because my fees were not paid. My father was going through a bad patch. My mom was going through a bad patch. And they called me, and my father called me. It was having a tough call. And said, son, I know how it feels. You've been going to school all semester. And I just want to apologize to you and beg you, please come home next year. You'll go back to school again. But I had faith, I had grace. I told him, Dad, don't worry. Don't worry. It's exams, don't worry. Even if I don't do all these 4 courses, I will pass this semester. And that added some further ginger, I'll say, to my dad. And he saw the car, he did all he could. And I was able to find the help of my mom as well, the 300,000+ that he paid for the fees. And God would have it, I was able to receipt some of those exams, even though all of them were done in one day. And I had a 4-point-something GPA that semester and went on to finish that course with being one of the highest in my class. And all of these things just bring a special memory, how he always motivated. I remember in secondary school how he would not spare the rod. And with his words, I always feared my dad's words. My dad's words would always cut through your skin like a blade. They're even worse than the beating, which he was not afraid to use at all. My father would stand with you and punch you even as I grew older and felt like I was beginning to grow wings. But all of these things he did to ensure that I could be a man that he would be proud of. I remember when I left school and because I started working pretty early. At 17, 18, I was already working, and all of the things that associated things that happened. And every time I would just think about the things that my father had told me, and they really helped me to set the life that I'm living today in motion. And just thinking back to that loss, that very day I was at the office and I received a call in VI then, and it was like, Ifeanyi, your father is close to dying. And it was like my world ended. I remember I was wearing a red and a white shirt and a jacket, a tie. And I just told my employer, I was like, I need to leave now. Father was in the hospital in Oba. And I drove all the way to Oba, and I got there. And unfortunately, he was dead before I got there. And I remember stepping into the room, looking at my father, lifeless, and I walked away. I walked. It was one of the longest walks I'd ever walked. I walked far away from the hospital, far away. And I was just thinking, I kept walking and walking, because I knew that as the first son, it was time. Even though, yes, I'd already been beyond the burden, because my father had been sick a little bit, but I knew that finally, beyond financial burden, there was now a spiritual covering and a lot of things that I had to start to bear. And I came back there. Fortunately, in Nigeria, it was at 3 a.m., I had to take his body to the mortuary, and I had to do all that process with the mortuary attendant who had a bad leg. So my mother was outside while myself and the mortuary attendants were doing the cleaning, and I saw my father in a way that I had never seen him before. And I still did not shed a tear. Tears just did not come to my eye, because I was in a hyper-focused motion, and for some reason I just had to be strong. My mother was there in tears. Well, how was I supposed to react? No, I couldn't react. And over the years, his burial came, everything came, and we just kept pushing and pushing. But this year, I started to see my father in dreams a lot more. And none of these dreams was he talking about. Just in different, sometimes in everyday scenarios, sometimes in things that happened back then, I would just see it happen again. And I was thinking, this week, it's 10 years. It's a decade since my father died. So as a family, we should come together and do something. But it just brings me back with all the loss of all the things that happened around Dubai and the UAE today. It just brings me back to loss, and just thinking about loss, just grieving, getting a chance to grieve. It's very important that we find the chance to grieve. And I will at some point find the chance to grieve for this. I will at some point take a break from the hyper-focus, the daily hustle and bustle, the having to be so strong, and just relax and just breathe and do what is required. But I just want to talk to everyone that has borne some form of loss, wherever you are, Nigeria, the UK, the US. I just want to ask you, let's just take a break and breathe. Take a break and mourn, let it out. It's fine. It's okay. It'll be okay. Thank you very much, guys, for joining today's episode. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.